Welcome. Good morning. Actually, we're just on the cusp of morning and afternoon. So welcome everyone to the Leadership Louisville Center's Thought Leadership Series event. We're so excited to see everyone here, and I see people are coming in from the waiting room. So welcome. We've got some amazing speakers and folks with us today, but we'd love to know who's with us in the room, and we are going to be using our chat feature to interact together today, both to give shout outs and also to ask questions of our panelists. So I see Dave Mattingly. Yes, if I could sing well, I would totally kind of start that tune, but everybody, you just got an earworm. So thank you, Dave, for that shout out. Hi, Wanda. Welcome everyone. As people are logging in, please feel free to say hello in the chat, and I'm going to get us kicked off. So hello everyone. I am Holly Prather. I am Vice President of the Leadership Louisville Center and excited to help coordinate our Thought Leadership Series. And welcome to today's Thought Leadership Series event, which promises to leave us all feeling smarter and more in the know about the latest technology that is revolutionizing our work and our lives. This is also a great teaser for next week's, actually it's not next week, it's the 2 weeks away, the Future of Work conference that we're gonna hear more about. So exciting news. Welcome to all of our members who are regular attendees at our Thought Leadership Series. And now that we are virtual, for the moment, we have lots of guests with us who may be coming just to hear these speakers or to check out the Leadership Louisville Center. So welcome to you. And what we like to do to kick this series off is to make sure everyone from our old friends and our new friends know what's happening with the Leadership Louisville Center so that you can come hang out with us again and know that the resources that are available to you through the center. So I'm going to share a couple of things we've got coming up. Oops, I'm actually going to go all the way back through my slides. The next thing we have coming up is we offer full-length one-day leadership training courses through our Leadership Green Room, and we have the calendar mapped out all the way through the end of 2021, but I wanted to share a couple of things coming up this spring. In April, we have Influencing from the Middle, Lead Your Boss, Lead Your Peers. This is a course we are bringing back because it was so popular last year. It will be offered virtually, and our facilitator is the author of Lead Your Boss, John Baldoni. So it will be an amazing day of learning. And then in May, we have our own Cynthia Napek and Zuri Johnson, who are going to facilitate the course, Developing the Leader Within You. And that's based on a John Maxwell book. So come hang out with us to boost your leadership acumen through our Leadership Green Room courses. And then also what we have that's mentioned on this slide is we launched our free virtual micro-learning sessions last year, and we have one of those coming up on April 23rd. Henrietta Pepper is going to be sharing what inspires us, drives us forward. So come hang out with us for that free virtual micro-learning. And the best thing we have coming up is our Best of Leadership Summit is back. This will be a virtual event on May 13th, and we have an amazing speaker lineup. I'm so excited. Just yesterday, we sent out an email with the full lineup. We've added the president of KFC and Pizza Hut to our speaker lineup, as well as the Chief Diversity Officer for PNC. And we also have a special Broadway evening with some folks from the Broadway series of plays. So lots of things to check out. A couple of the speakers are on this slide. And then the next thing I want to share is our 100 Wise Women series has also, we've announced the 2021 speakers, and our first event of the year is coming up on April 7th. We're going to feature Dr. Ashley Anderson as our speaker. And as always, these events include a speaker who kicks off the conversation, followed by small group breakouts. So for our women in the audience, we'd love to have you join us. And the fun thing is it's April 7th, which if you will notice, it's the same day as the Future of Work conference, but the times don't overlap. So you can totally come see us see Ashley in the morning, and then head over to the next virtual event of the day for the conference. So that's what's happening with the Leadership Louisville Center. When we send an email out after today's session, we will include links to all of those things. So we hope to see you again soon. So on to today's event, we have some incredible speakers joining us. And but first, I want to invite our amazing friends at Baird to say hello and also help introduce our speakers. Baird has stuck with us both when we offered these events in person and now virtual, and they are an incredible partner to us. And we have a great friend in Jim Allen who's going to introduce our speakers. But before we do that, I'm going to show you a quick video about Baird.
If you're looking for a different type of financial partner, discover Baird. Our culture is founded on integrity, transparency, and teamwork to give you the financial advice you need now and for the next 100 years. Discover the Baird difference. Visit BairdDifference.com.
Okay. You ready for me, Holly?
I am.
Thank you very much. And I just want to acknowledge what great work you and your leadership, Cynthia and your Leadership Louisville colleagues do in keeping Leadership Louisville absolutely at the forefront. And we've had a long and great partnership with you over the years. Of course, Baird and Hilliard Lyons came together on April 1st of 2019. And so through that entire relationship, we've got 167 years of history in this community and have been committed to Louisville in a big way for a long time. And Leadership Louisville is truly one of the great partnerships that we have. We have such appreciation and admiration and respect for what you do and the great asset to this community that you are. And today's program is just another example of keeping it relevant and timely. So thank you very much for inviting us to continue to be sponsors. It's a natural partnership for us. And again, we've got another outstanding program today. So we look forward to a fascinating conversation today on what everyone needs to know about the coming AI revolution. And AI wasn't on the topic list 167 years ago, so we've come a long way. Our panelists include 2 guests from Microsoft and 2 local leaders working on Louisville's Future of Work initiative, started with a grant from Microsoft. This initiative was designed to spark a hub for artificial intelligence, automation, and data innovation in the Louisville area. Microsoft has continued to be deeply involved in the work through ongoing grants, training, and human capital. Their involvement, as well as the support of Metro government and a host of local players, has really catalyzed a lot of energy into the effort of both educating companies and building a much more diverse tech talent pipeline. So let's welcome our panelists. We have Lina Feng, Director in the Office of Digital Office Director in the Chief Digital Office for Microsoft. Manasa Ramalinga, Senior Data Engineer for Microsoft. Alisia McClain, Director of Community and Education Initiatives for the Microsoft Future of Work Initiative in Louisville. And Ben Reno-Weber, Executive Director of Microsoft Future for Work Innovation in Louisville. Please join me by welcoming our panelists. And Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick off the conversation and share what AI is and what it means to Louisville. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks for being such a great community partner and community entrepreneur on so many levels, where Hilliard Lyons has been involved in sponsors and early movers, good risk capital for our community. I was laughing earlier with Lena. So when Microsoft first came to Louisville 18 months ago, we were there for the opening of Story Louisville, the co-working space in Nulu. And we talked about, one of our objectives was that we were going to start building an innovation district there. And man, 18 months later, even through a pandemic, I am now at the 3rd co-working space that has opened. We actually have, so not only is Story's office fully booked and utilized and the kind of hub, even now, of people in masks and activities that we want to see, but there is another, the Logic building, several blocks away in Nulu, now houses 3 rapidly growing data-focused companies, El Toro, Edge, and Interapt, and more are coming. So that building is completely full. And so much has happened. We've got, as we'll talk about, an informatics track piloting within Jefferson County Public Schools. We have aligned so many of the local data players. And a lot has happened in the 18 months since you made the initial seed investment. So welcome. I'm glad to have this fabulous panel. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to do a little bit of talking about, everyone can spell AI. What exactly is it? And then Manasa is going to talk a little bit about the different levels and tell some stories from her work as a data scientist within Microsoft. And then we're going to hand over to Alisia, who's going to talk about a lot of her really exciting work about the opportunities that the data revolution bring to change the nature of our tech talent and tech talent pipeline. And then Lena is going to talk about how that tech talent pipeline connects to what companies really need to do and how we're balancing those jobs. And then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So our plan is that we'll be taking questions in the chat along the way, but we'll be hoping to have a really good discussion with all of you all. So I'm going to share my screen. This is our avatar, Fleur. And why Fleur is important is that she represents a lot of what the Future of Work Initiative cares about, which is standing up a very different talent pipeline within Louisville. She is an African-American woman who is being recognized by facial recognition, which is not always the case because not all the people involved in shaping the technologies have been reflective of the populations that are going to be impacted by those technologies. So what exactly is AI and what does it mean for us? I think the first thing to understand is that AI is transformational technology. This is not an incremental change, and it is going to touch every aspect of business and society, much like the advent of mobile technologies, the internet, electricity, or the combustion engine. I'll go back 100 years to the combustion engine because it's kind of fun. So you think about something like, okay, the internal combustion engine led to some obvious innovations, right? Oh, the automobile, that makes sense. I've got a new way of moving things from place to place, which is good news if you're in the car making industry. It's really bad news if you're in the horse-drawn carriage industry. Okay, so massive reduction in horses and carriages. What does that mean? Well, one of the lesser known implications was a massive reduction in demand for agricultural products because 25% of the agricultural products in the US went to feeding horses. It changed the nature of banking and consumer credit because there was this giant capital purchase that individual households wanted to have. And so there needed to be new instruments of finance in order to enable them to make that capital purchase. And it changed the nature of advertising because all of a sudden, brands and companies needed to have a logo that could be recognized as you were puttering along at 40 miles an hour. So in Louisville, thanks to an analysis, and this is a slide I want to give full credit to the Brookings Institution for, we have more industries and jobs in fields where AI could be widespread than almost anywhere else in the country. And that includes healthcare, manufacturing, and e-commerce. So what that means for us is that we're either going to be doing the disrupting because we have those concentrations, or we're going to be disrupted. And the current trajectory is that most of the jobs in this industry are going to continue to go to the coasts. So if you look at where those innovation jobs have been going over the last 5 years, it's not here. And I think the real opportunity is for us to change that trajectory. So what do we need to understand about it? So AI, in some ways, is mythologized as it's going to take everyone's jobs and everything's going to go away and it's all going to be run by the robots. What I think is true is that some traditional fields where the individual tasks are easily replicatable by a computer, those are going to go away. So things like medical transcription, despite the performance of Siri and Alexa, those jobs are going to go away. Paralegals will have their tasks drastically changed. A lot of customer service is going to go away. But that's likely going to give people in tangential fields superpowers. What if with the increased productivity that partnering with those kinds of technologies gave us, we could really help humans to focus on the things that humans do best, coordinating that care, not focused on emails, personalizing education, predicting when something is going to break and getting out in front of it. And for us, that could mean, as these technologies proliferate, new models of healthcare delivery focused on our aging care cluster, new ways to manufacture or get value from manufacturing, new ways to handle e-commerce and fulfillment, value-based care because we actually understand the full value stream in healthcare. So I'm going to let Lina at the end of this talk about how we are working on building both the supply and demand of talent. But I want to hand over to Manasa to talk a little bit about her experiences with this technology.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for such a great introduction of why you want to get onto AI bandwagon. Hello, everybody. Let me just project my screen here. Can somebody confirm if they're able to see this? Perfect. Awesome. Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited to be here and talking to you all today. As it was told, my name is Manasa Ramalinga. I'm a senior data scientist, currently leading data science efforts to enable our partners and customers, specifically in the area of retail, manufacturing, and sustainability. I have over 7 years of experience being a data scientist and of almost 7 to 8 years of experience being an engineer. So I bring to the table both my engineering background and also data science expertise. And I have worked across many divisions at Microsoft, to name a few: Windows, Xbox, Azure, pretty much every organization that you could think of within Microsoft. I have had opportunity to work in those orgs. For anybody who wants to get in touch with me, I have my email ID and LinkedIn for you. So as Ben said, today I'm here to give you guys an overview of what is data science, like, and what can be achieved with data science, right? So one of the cool things about my job is the opportunity I'm given to work with several partners and customers just like you are. As you all know, every customer, every partner has different complexities. They come with different data and data science maturity, and they have different business outcomes. The good thing is at Microsoft, we have this AI and ML technologies and tools and also experts who are able to cater to this gamut of customers that we have. To give you a simple example of the varied spectrum of our customers, we are working with a few partners and customers who are just getting started, who are just figuring out what it means to be somebody who is incorporating data and data science into their culture. They're starting with what kind of data to collect, how to collect, right, and what and how to make sense out of it. On the other end of the spectrum, we also have partners and customers who are living and breathing data science in every aspect of their organization. They are now partnering with us to build really mature data science solutions. For example, like how can they mimic human behavior for greater business outcomes? But there are also customers who are in between that entire spectrum, as you can see. There are many techniques and many approaches that one can use to achieve different business outcomes, as you can see on the slide here. Next, there is really not any industry in the world that cannot reap benefits from data science, honestly. Like at Microsoft, we are supporting our partners and customers from different industry verticals like financial services, manufacturing, healthcare, retail, telecom, and now we are also putting our bets and our energy into sustainability. That is also a bigger industry that we are actually going after at this time in the year of 2021 and onwards. For this audience, today I'm going to talk about a few examples of data science solutions and how we are making a big impact for this customers and partners of ours. I'll start with the manufacturing. I think Ben had a really good slide that he was talking about predictive maintenance, smart factories. That is really where the future is actually going. Currently, I personally am partnering with one of the Fortune 100 manufacturing company. I cannot take the name of them, but what we are helping them with is building smart factories. There are several use cases that we are working with them, but one specific use case that I can talk to you is about how we are revolutionizing using data science, especially anomaly detection, to say whether a certain motor that is fit to the conveyor belt is working appropriately or not. The way it is done is with a combination of IoT technology along with data science. We collect information with the sensors that tells us about the temperature, humidity, and vibrations around the motor. With that, we are able to build our data science solution using anomaly detection to tell whether the motor is working as expected. If we see that temperature is going high, maybe it is an indication that the motor fan is not working. If the humidity or that vibrations are wonky, we can tell, oh, maybe a certain screw or a nut or a bolt, something is not aligned well, so that it might lead to a breaking of the entire system. Right. So this is how this manufacturer who is working with is actually reaping benefits of data science. On the other end, we are deeply integrated and also doing some really meaningful work in the healthcare industry. One example that I can talk here is we're collaborating with one of the hospital chains to help them understand which of their patients are more prone to become opioid addicts. We are building this predictive model around it so that, the hospital system and the government of that particular county is able to help the people in that county to stop that opioid spread, right? On the other hand, we also are collaborating with one of the other hospital giants where they have a bot system where the patients for that particular hospital are able to interact with the bot to get information about what kind of treatment to get, when to get tested for COVID, like, what is the course of action when somebody is determined to have COVID. So the beauty of that particular project that we are working is we are using one of the core technologies of data science called natural language processing to help identify what are those hot topics that patients in this currently are actually asking them, so that they can curate the most relevant and helpful information so that the patients are served as soon as possible without having to wait for having an appointment, for example. So to finish my conversation with you all, I'll talk about retail as another example. Again, we are working with one of the Fortune 100 companies here, especially a grocery chain. One of the things that you can think of is like, a lot of food wastage, right? We see and hear about it all the time, like especially when we talk about misfit food, like, we are using Azure Cognitive Services to help this grocery chain to understand which are those produce that are actually misfit. They're not bad, they just don't look right. The consumers, when they look at them in the grocery stores, they don't just pick them, and when they don't pick them, they just rot and they get wasted. But to have a sustainable supply chain, to be able to figure out which of those produce is actually misfit and actually move it to some kind of organizations who can actually use it to feed other people who are okay with using misfit produce is something that we are using cognitive services to help with. So at a high level, these are some of the projects, some meaningful effort that we are doing and giving back to the society and our partners and customers. I hope this was informative to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manasa. That was perfect. I think really understanding the layers of this, sometimes this is really simple and you can get a lot of value out of a relatively minimal investment. And sometimes this is really complex and needs a much more sophisticated thinking. But I love the idea that a sets of data that already exists in organizations, you can help them to unlock value that they're just sitting on. hey, here's we all talk about the low hanging fruit. This is literally rotting fruit that you are then creating value out of that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So I want to hand over to Alisia McClain, who is has I think been such a visionary leader in our community in helping us to reconceive what's possible and who belongs in the tech community and what are the barriers that need to be overcome, but also really conceptualizing what is the value that having different voices are being heard around the table can bring. So Alisia McClain.
Thank you, Ben, and hello, everybody. And we're at afternoon now, so good afternoon. Ben, would you be so kind to throw up the picture of Floor? Because I think that sort of encapsulates everything that I'd like to just conversationally address today. So first of all, pleasure to hear what everybody else has said before coming on. And I think Ben sort of addressed the what is AI? Manasa addressed the sort of how is it implemented? I'd like to talk a little bit about the who and who is involved in artificial intelligence and what we see as who needs to be involved in the coming years and in the future in general. So first, just want to talk about the fact that Ben talked about in his presentation that it will touch every aspect of society. And then Manasa talked about how it will touch every industry. And this becomes very important. Actually, one of the reasons why Louisville was chosen for this artificial intelligence hub was because Louisville has a high amount of jobs that are at risk of being lost to automation. And these jobs are actually disproportionately held by underrepresented minorities in the field of computer and data science. And so in a field that, as we probably, I think it's common knowledge now, know is dominated by white males, this becomes very important for a couple of reasons, or for a few reasons, actually. First of all, we're lacking the innovation that diverse groups bring to the table. Obviously, as you can see with Floor and has been pointed out, she is being seen and being recognized. Floor is a dark-skinned woman wandering around somewhere who has no idea how much we've used her image. No, but she's being recognized by the facial recognition software, and that has been specifically a situation where those who have darker skin tones have had problems with the current artificial intelligence deployments that we have around facial recognition in actually being recognized. This obviously becomes very important when we start to think about life and death situations such as autonomous vehicles and autonomous driving, and being able to recognize that someone is a person is a determination of what moves or what decisions the artificial intelligence in the car will make. And so that becomes very important. And that's sort of a drastic situation. But even less drastic, maybe you could argue, is that we are lacking the innovation that diverse groups bring to the table. There are a lot of studies that show that the more diverse in backgrounds and ethnicities that experiences that people bring to the table, the higher the problem-solving abilities of the group. So it's easy to stop there and say, listen, we need to do something about it. But we also want to think about what actually attracts people to the field, because there are differences, and there's a lot of research around what actually attracts men to the field of data and computer science versus what attracts women to the field of men and computer and data and computer science. And obviously, gender is I mean, I believe it to be a spectrum, and we're talking about broad generalizations based on research. So just make a note that is that we do recognize that gender is on the spectrum, but men, by and large, are drawn by hacking, taking things apart, the hardware itself, whereas women are drawn to the field by its ability to solve problems, to help people, to better society. And women are seeing data and computer science as a medium for social innovation, for advancing our futures as humans. And we're not typically teaching data science and computer science in these ways. So when we think about the Microsoft slogan of empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, we think in terms of tequity. And tequity is sort of a hybrid of technology and equity. And a lot of times we think about diversity in technology in terms of equality. Let's make sure everyone has a device. Let's make sure everyone has access to broadband. And that is definitely part of it, absolutely. But there's also understanding that piece of sense of belonging within the field. And how does my identity and all of the intersections of my identity find a place in this field? So what we are trying to do with the Future of Work initiative is to change the culture of the industry and change the culture of the curriculum. So when we think about those who are interested in math and hardware and taking things apart, that's wonderful. But in addition to that, we want to think about how data science can be used to empower, how data science can be used to explore identity, how we can use data science to tell a community's story. And so we've implemented some really interesting programs, such as the Butterfly Project, which is a partnership between Bellarmine and Central High School, where students actually learned data analytics to analyze open data sets that are available to move a nonprofit's mission forward. So what I think was interesting about this project was that a lot of the students said, well, I don't know how to not have a problem statement, or sorry, to not present a solution. Because typically when we think of data science for businesses, we present the data and then think towards solutions. But this is different. When we're working in communities, especially in marginalized communities, we are thinking in terms of how can this data support the community's mission? And in this case, how can the data support this nonprofit's mission and move them forward? So we had nonprofits from 5 core tenets of the documented path forward. So jobs, justice, health, housing, and education. And the students in teams worked on finding data sets and analyzing that data for the purpose of pushing or helping that nonprofit move their mission forward in one of those 5 core areas. And what's interesting about this is some of the feedback that came back was very different. So a lot of the students said, I need them to slow down because I've never actually used Excel before. And that's a very interesting point, because the question is, these are juniors in high school, would they use Excel outside of this program? And what actually attracted people to this program was the fact that as I was talking about, data as a medium for solving problems. And in this case, with this program, the program was 92% female. And that serves as sort of an anecdotal support of the research around what actually attracts different groups to the field. And so I just want to close by saying that we are working to change the curriculum both in industry and education around this important topic. And one thing I do want to give a shout out to is that when you think about all of the technological advances that have happened to date, do you think about electric cars? I can look out the window and see mine out there. I love electric cars. And when you think about all the incredible innovations that have happened to date in a field that is dominated by one particular demographic, and they're already amazing innovations, think about all of the issues that we could address, all of the societal problems that we have, all of the communities that haven't necessarily been highlighted in the past. If we looked at them as assets, think about where we could go as a society if we had a more diverse group of people at the table. It truly is, not to be, I don't know, but it truly is the future of work. And if we think about actually using technology and data science in moving that case forward, we can really start to address some of the systemic inequities from multiple approaches that have befallen us in the past, and start to make a better future for all of us as we move forward. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Lena Feng at Microsoft. I don't know, Ben, if you wanted to introduce Lena.
No need, no need. I can certainly do that. Actually, Ben, could you actually put up another slide too, the one on the parity piece? And I just have to say, it's been a real privilege and honor to have gotten the chance to work with Alisia, Ben, and so many others in Louisville. And also thank you to my wonderful colleague, Manasa, who's really leading the charge on a lot of these data science efforts. I'd like to kind of tie a few of these pieces together and talk a little bit at a higher level in terms of what we have emphasized in terms of driving towards a future in which Louisville, and hopefully cities like Louisville, really are able to adopt and take on a regional hub brand identity that really helps to drive economic growth, economic opportunity. Everything that Alisia said around equity, inclusion has been front and center. One of the things that we recognized at the start when we were talking about our partnership between Microsoft, the city, the key piece of this was really figuring out how do we make sure that talent supply in the region and employment opportunities and jobs demand reach this parity. And the way that we thought about this is really, we have to do much better, not just for the top, 2 or 3% of workers in an economy. We have to do much better to bring everyone along in that tech talent supply journey and making sure that they're gaining access to digital skills with data literacy and fluency being center. And we also have to find ways to better engage industry to ensure that there is a also healthy supply of, or healthy demand for these data positions, AI positions. One of the things that we recognized early on, Ben, I don't think you mentioned this data point, but also from our friends at the Brookings Institution, was a third, like a little more than 28% of jobs, this was from a couple years ago, in Louisville are at high risk of automation, not medium risk, not low risk, like high risk. So in that, fill in the blank there of other jobs that are going to be interrupted, disrupted, and all of that. And that is precisely because of the economic makeup of Louisville. And so how are we going to actually bring those jobs into the future of jobs? And one of the things that we really focused on is the reskilling and upskilling efforts that are going to be needed. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of what Alisia referenced with high school education, middle school education, even earlier. And then there's the very urgent need of how do we help those already in positions today to reskill and upskill. I saw a statistic the other day that just in the next year, there's going to be about 27% of roles that are going to be net new due to technology, and 50% of employees they will require reskilling and upskilling. So when you think about that in the context of the ongoing automation, ongoing AI adoption that's happening, which by the way has only been intensified as a result of the pandemic, especially in industries like healthcare and manufacturing, which of course are some of the backbone industries of Louisville. Then you sort of get this perfect storm where the digital skilling, data skilling, all of this needs to happen in a pretty quick manner in order to meet the demands of and support the industry growth and adopt digital transformation adoption that's happening, and to make sure that everyone is able to, in the future, actually future-proof their jobs of today. And how do they obtain the new skills that they need in order to make sure that they can be in a job with a career path or in a job that supports them financially, right? So a lot of these issues were really driving our collective partnership and how we thought about creating the ethos of the Future of Work initiative and all that the team is doing. I think one of the really important call outs that was said earlier is when we think about jobs that touch on, AI and all of these, the newest waves of technology, I think we automatically start to think of the vision of someone who may be male, maybe Caucasian. I think the reality is, as these technologies proliferate, the actual impact will be felt across the board. And because of that, we have to do take some very intentional steps to bring everyone along. Manasa referenced a lot of really interesting projects and the adoption and use cases of data science in organizations. And that's going to be incredibly important. But what is going to be even more important is making sure that everyone within a company has the ability to actually use data. I think that's one of the biggest blockers or bottlenecks that we see. Oftentimes, right now, we see concentrated in tech-focused teams, or a data science team within a company. They're the ones that are really just looking at the data. But sooner or later, we're going towards this future where really everyone needs to understand data, be able to use it, be able to access it, maybe not to the same level of intensity, but that literacy is really going to separate those companies, organizations from the rest. And the only way we get there is if we really take an intentional view of developing that pipeline from start to finish, early, young people, all the way to those who are in current positions within a company. So I think to bring all of this together, I think this is the trends here, macro trends here have been just the driving forces for the work. And we recognize that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And there are various communities that are disproportionately impacted. So how do we create opportunity in AI so that it's not just displacement of jobs, but a way to help better everyone's career path and earning power and ability to support, their own careers and professions. I will pause there because I know we're probably running close to the end.
That's right where we want to be. Thank you to all of you all. I think you added a lot of really interesting pieces, and people have been direct messaging me questions in the chat and then being like, oh, nope, she answered it. Okay, you're good. I think one of the things that each of you highlighted that I think is really powerful, and particularly for this crew at Leadership Louisville, which does such a really good job of bringing together innovative and thoughtful people from every part of our community, a lot of this is going to be about culture. It's going to be about the culture of leveraging data. I mean, I was on a panel yesterday about no code, low code things where somebody took just an Excel spreadsheet, popped it into Power BI, and then was able to generate automatically huge insights using natural language processing just built into the system. It didn't require a ton of skill, but what it did require was somebody saying to the people involved, hey, you belong here using this data, and then let me invite you to leverage the data that already exists in your organization. So if there are any takeaways for this audience, I really hope that what we get is this is about a culture of data and and a culture of inclusion, and that's what's going to drive value creation. All right, let's see. Do you see AI equipping businesses to make work more accessible and perhaps actually creating more jobs? So
I can definitely say absolutely. And I also know that we as a company have invested a lot in terms of accessibility. And there are many teams dedicated to doing that and making sure that any net new tech that's enabled by AI is not inadvertently leaving others out. And there are a lot more jobs. I think one of the myths here is there are more jobs being created by these technologies than there are being lost. And yes, we should address those that are being lost by reskilling and upskilling as much as possible, those to continue up into those new jobs.
So question out of our educational ecosystem. Yep. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go for it.
How should we be thinking about the traditional post-secondary pathway, college, versus more of a credentials or upskilling once you're on jobs?
Alisia, I don't know if you want to take that. I can chime in real quick. I know that as what we're seeing both for us as well as other peer companies is there is a lot more openness to non-traditional backgrounds, not having college degrees. I think that's hopefully I'm answering that question correctly. And willingness to really look at the individual skills potential despite where it may have come from. So I think that's only going to pave the way for that in the future as well.
I would absolutely, and just piggybacking on what Lena said, I think whether you go to a graduate from a post-secondary institution or go the route of, let's call it, stackable credentials, this emphasis on lifelong learning is going to become where we go. I feel like in my generation, you went to college, and then you sort of stopped learning in some ways. Like, yeah, you might, take a painting class, but like you weren't expected to learn a whole new platform or software. And I think unless you were, in the technology field, but I think that this idea of lifelong learning is going to become front and center in industry, and not just as a way to not get Alzheimer's, which is really important too. Yeah, so I think that this stackable credentials, whether it becomes stackable credentials that start after high school, even during high school, or after a post-secondary education, is going to be a trend that continues because innovative technologies are advancing exponentially, and in order to keep up with them, you can't just go to college and do a one and done.
Manasa, can you talk a little bit about when you've seen companies do this successfully, what does it look like internally? In terms
of upskilling ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with Alisia, to be honest with you. As I said, my education, I can take my own example. I can actually share it with you all. My education is in computer science and engineering, and I started my career as a software engineer. But towards that, 7-year mark, I was like, I have a little bit of knowledge of math. I have interest in statistics. It's a lifelong learning journey. So I was like, okay, I'm plateauing in my career now. How do I take it to a next level? So that's when I made a switch to data science. And I actually did a full-time master's degree from Stanford while working a full-time job. So, and this is something many organizations, not just Microsoft, is actually providing as a facility and encouraging internal employees to be able to, upskill themselves and work for another field altogether, right? So on the other hand, I'm also, in addition to doing data science work, I'm also part of putting together hackathons where we are bringing data science and putting together the small modules of work that anybody can participate and get a sense of what it is to be a data scientist, what it is to wrangle with data, what it is to understand the insights from data science, right, from the data itself. So those initiatives are far and wide, at least at Microsoft, and I know it is done even outside of Microsoft as well. So that is also something that is done very openly, very deliberately, to be honest with you, to upskill our technical community within Microsoft.
Yeah. To add to that, Ben, I know that right now with automation, a lot of the traditional work where a data scientist has had to spend a lot of time, like data wrangling, cleaning up the data, which is like what, 70-75% of their time, that is going to be increasingly automated. So then the work of a data science and the work of those who really need to interpret the data start to kind of democratize out to business roles and others who are either implementing the insights, informing the insights. So that's where I think if we look forward to a really successful organization that knows how to enable its people in everything data that support AI, all of this, everyone needs to understand how to either inform it, interpret it, apply it. And it's not just like some super technical person sitting in front of the computer wrangling the data and spitting it into models.
Yep. And to do that,
I can add a little bit here, right? So I'm also in the recruiting. So I have been recruiting data scientists, and I have to tell you, there is so much dearth for data scientists. And I mean, the more people get into the area of data and data science, I think there is a lot more that we can do together as a community of data and data scientists. So yes, I mean, no doubts about like, you know, that there's no dearth for jobs. To be honest, we are not able to find candidates to hire to my own team currently. So yes, there is a lot of opportunities out there. So yeah, I totally say that, you know, if you get a chance, if you are interested, please go and see how you can be a data scientist or be in the field of data somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I want to do one last question, which is around these components of building a pipeline of people who feel like they can be in data and data science. You know, Lena, you talked about this democratizing data, where it's not going to be about, can I technically go in and clean it? Like the systems are going to do that for you. And we saw some really powerful examples of that in the Butterfly Project presentations that Alisia was referencing earlier. But thinking about, okay, so we're engaged in the middle school and high school pipeline. I see from Martin and Tracy Joe. You know, Alisia, can you just take a stab at what are some of the efforts that somebody in a private school like Nativity, but also what's going on within JCPS? And then I can see Holly creeping up on me. So that's gonna be our last question.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you all are creating more work for me because this is definitely within my wheelhouse. So I'm just gonna say, as the kids would say, get at me. But, you know, definitely. So we are working with JCPS, which I actually scrolled up in the comments and someone was saying that they were using Google Sheets and not MS Excel. Unfortunately, they are not even using Google Sheets. There is no data science pathway in JCPS as it currently stands. So we developed one for them, and it's called ID Academy. It's based on the already approved KDE informatics pathway. So we'll actually pilot it at Central High School next year. We definitely have space to implement. This is at the high school and the college level. And I want to be clear, there's a lot of college students that aren't getting access to that basic data literacy that we talked about, that understanding of how to wrangle data, how to visualize data, et cetera, that's going to be important no matter what field they go into. So we're actually working with Simmons College to develop a data literacy and a data science pathway. Also working with Bellarmine to implement a data literacy program. So right now we've dealt with public high schools and private colleges. So we are definitely interested in expanding in both directions, or I guess laterally to, you know, to the schools that have been mentioned here, in addition to, as Lena mentioned, moving into middle school. There's some really fantastic artificial intelligence curriculum that is free and available for middle school students. So I would love to talk to, I'm distracted by the chat. I would love to speak more to folks about how we can work to implement data literacy, data science in the educational institutions that you're a part of. So yes, let me know.
All right, Holly is doing the Aaron, the trademarked Leadership Louisville Aaron creep, where he like gets up close to the speaker to gently shift them off stage. So I'm gonna do one more thank you to our fabulous panel. It's been so fun to be with you all today. Holly, over to you.
Thank you, Ben. And thanks to our panelists. This was a really amazing conversation. And I love the chat. I love the conversation about the importance of diversity and having diverse and inclusive teams to drive innovation. And there's so many things that just got my wheels spinning just about the way that we can use data and data science and AI to better do all kinds of things that we do. And it's really exciting that Microsoft has invested in Louisville to do this. And Ben and Alisia are great advocates to implementing this. I also put in the chat, I love that the Path Forward Louisville project and documentation is driving some of this work. So thank you for that. I'm going to very quickly share my screen again because, as I mentioned, this conversation is a bit of a teaser because the Louisville Future of Work Initiative is hosting a free virtual conference in just 2 weeks on April 7th and 8th. And the theme is accelerating AI and data automation, and you can register for free at futurelou.com. So please feel free to check this out. Ben, I think, is sending things in the chat. So hopefully you can get information about how to join them for more stimulating conversation on this topic. This amazing, I guess, AI character. I don't know if she's a real person or if she's automated or animated, but just beautiful. And I love that is the image that Microsoft and the team is using for this. So with that, thank you again to all of our panelists. Thank you to Baird. Thank you to Jim Allen. And we're so excited that this work is being done in Louisville and that we could offer this to our members and our guests to have this conversation. I do feel a little bit more informed on this amazing topic. So thank you. Fleur, thank you, is the avatar. Thank you. I couldn't remember her name. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. We will see you again, and look for an email from me with links that you can use to connect with our speakers and also learn more about all the exciting things happening in our community. So thanks again, and everyone have a beautiful day.
Thanks to all of you. Pleasure.
Thanks. Thanks.